Hey everyone, it's Friday. That means it's time to deploy. I'm John, and I'm joined here with Jim as always. Jim, how are you?
Yeah, really good, man. I'm feeling great. We spent all of last week up in Brisbane meeting my team for the first time. So, yeah,
How was that?
to see. Yeah, there's a whole nother dimension to people that I didn't realize.
What's that? What was the
The
dimension
third
that you realized?
dimension. The third dimension.
Awesome.
Yeah, yeah,
What team are you on for folks who don't know?
yeah. I'm on the hosting and execution team. So my team looks after things like our cloud platform and the deployment pipeline itself, how we execute the scripts and steps and everything everyone configures to
Yep.
do all the wonderful things they do with Octopus Deploy.
So
Yeah,
basically, the crux of Octopus is deployments, and so you guys own part of that, I guess.
yeah, we own the part once it's actually running. So like
Mm.
a lot of the cool stuff our product does is actually in how you set up your deployment. So
Right.
whether you need to configure tenants to match the clients that you deploy to, or whether you've got um, you know complex and differing variable sets depending on where you're deploying and in what environment, and that all happens outside of us. But once we get script to run, place to run it, and your steps to
Someone
do
else's
it,
problem.
we take that's our problem. We take over once we know what to run and where to run it.
Yep.
uh, that's what we do. Yeah.
Awesome. So for those who are just stumbling across this for the first time, this is Deploy on Friday. This is a weekly show that Jim and I do. We basically cover the latest tech trends and news surrounding Octopus Deploy. If you want to find out more, you can go to octopus.com, and there you will find information about the product that we basically help promote, which is Octopus Deploy. It's a deployment tool. If you're a software developer or DevOps engineer or manager and looking for a better way to control your deployments, Octopus could help. So check us out at octopus.com. All right, shameless plug over. So let's get on with it. So we've got some news to cover for the week. It's been a pretty busy week, and both for us and for other folks. And this is an article that was written by Steve called "Cloud Nomad Architecture." And Steve's actually he's written a ton of information around DevOps and talks about how a quiet revolution has occurred in the software industry, with many organizations backing away from cloud computing and microservices. Certainly, that's been the case that we've seen both on this show and by others. And these decisions are mainly influenced by cost control and performance. So, in this post, we'll look at the repatriation and consolidation trends that are occurring out there. So, obviously, people moving back from cloud to on prem, why it's a step forward, not a step back, and the core idea of cloud nomad architecture. So, cloud nomad architecture, if you scroll down, talks about basically, drastically rethinking approach towards architecture and infrastructure. A cloud native architecture encourages this application to designed to run in the cloud, and you utilize technologies like containers and microservices and technologies like Kubernetes, etc. A cloud nomad architecture encompasses a trend towards fewer services, and you can host anywhere. So it's really the vision that I think Azure and Microsoft espoused back in the day when they talked about private clouds and public clouds and things of that nature. So, I think that this is that vision coming to life. And so Steve's article here talks a little bit about that and how it applies potentially to you when considering cloud for your application deployment targets.
Yeah, super interesting. I mean,
Hmm.
we've seen the backlash from microservices for quite a while now, but this idea of
Oh,
people
sure.
coming out of the cloud
Yep.
back into data centers is really
Yep.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I've certainly seen that trend where people have found it either too expensive or too difficult to manage, or a combination of the two, and so they're looking for something that they can have a little bit more control over. There's a bit of a backlash in a lot of different camps here. So, and it's not meant to be like mean or mean spirited. It's basically like, look, we can probably do a better job if we have more control and we can run them ourselves. And even if we can't do a better job, we can certainly save on cost because some of this stuff is not cheap. So, yeah, I
Mm,
mean, if anyone's
yeah.
had the pleasure of sharing their AWS or Azure or GCP bill, I think we've had a couple of bills that have been a little bit eyebrow raising, hosting Octopus Cloud, but that's interesting. So,
Yeah, actually, that's one of the things that I won the award for at our recent group event. So I spent the most money in cloud last quarter. So
oh,
yeah,
awesome. Okay, I won't ask the
and my
exact number,
name
but
next to
like,
it.
yeah. So was it 5 digits? Was it 6 digits?
uh,
Can you share?
Yeah, it was 5 digits. Yeah.
All right, there you go. 5 digits.
Yep.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's like a that's those. It's not rookie numbers. It's veteran numbers. 5
Yeah.
digits.
Yeah.
As soon as you get into 6 digits, you're like, okay, maybe there's something wrong. Cool. So that's an awesome article by Steve. This is a new feature in Octopus called Step Retries, and this is an article by the PM who's talking about this. It's a new feature in 2023.2. Step Retries. We did a video about this that talks about essentially what they allow you to do is basically retry steps that may fail in your deployment process. And this is common when you have either flaky connections or blocking connections or the blocking operations that are occurring within a deployment process. Because let's face it, you have remote services or you have other things that come into play with the deployment. And so step retries allows you to retry a step over and over again to a certain limit. And it's really easy to turn on. As you can see here, just turn on retries equals yes. And then it will give you the ability to specify the number of times you want to retry. I think it will give you a 15-second delay. And then if 3 retrials are unsuccessful, it will fail that step. So this is a way of getting better resiliency and robustness in your deployments, which is awesome.
Yeah. I mean, flaky networks is something people have to contend with all the time. But one of the things that I couldn't get over, because I think, flaky networks are one thing, but there are sometimes flaky networks behind the cloud provider. Like I remember trying to deploy Azure web apps, and sometimes the web app says no. You're like, what does that mean?
Web app says no. That's right. Yeah. So if you're at all curious, you can check out the YouTube video that we shot. This is from Shane, who's a member of the team that implemented this. And Shane was gives a demo about how this works and talks a little bit about why you might want to consider using it. So we provide that video there. And then just as a caveat for folks to know, there are some steps that you can't do step retries for. So sending an email and manual intervention, which makes total sense. Why would you retry a manual intervention? Either it's approved or not. A health check and then deploy a release. And there are reasons for this, some technical, some non. But generally speaking, you can retry on most steps now. So that's an awesome new evolution of our framework going forward, which is fantastic. Another article, or I should just take a sidestep. I want to make sure I always mention this. This is our roadmap. You'll find us at roadmap.octopus.com. I mention this every time I can. For folks who are wondering, like, what is shipped? What is coming? What is being under consideration? Roadmap.octopus.com. This should be your homepage, and if not, make it a bookmark. And there you will find all the features that we've shipped over each quarter. You can see we've got a nice cadence here. This is built on Product Board, which is an awesome sort of facility for doing this. You can see what's coming up on our roadmap. These are their planned features, for example. And then we have things that are under consideration. The reason why why this integration is nice is because obviously you can submit your own ideas. So if you have an idea for us, you're like, hey, you got to support whatever. I want to see backup to tape step implemented. I've got a VMS mainframe that I want to run a deployment to. Please support that. Or if you want to, deploy to somewhere else, hey, I want to support DigitalOcean or something like that. You can go ahead and submit your ideas. In addition to that, if you take a look at one of these, you can actually mark whether this feature is not important, nice to have, important, or critical for your success. So roadmap.octopus.com. Check it out. It's a great source of information. And as we can tell by the dog in the background there, obviously, yeah, that's fine. That's okay. We don't care. Yeah.
I might let
so an interesting, So Citadel Knight says here, interesting retry option can allow more opportunities for more reliance in the deploy, and that is 100% true. So thanks, Citadel. That is completely true. You want to make sure that because honestly, there's not much we can do in some cases. We can't control like a flaky network. So by providing a retry option, that's something that can help there. So thanks for the comment, and that is super true. So anyways, check it out, roadmap.octopus.com. Another feature. We're just banging out the features now. So this is more of an evolution of what we've supported in the past. So polling tentacles are basically a way of communicating back to Octopus. So we have 2 types of tentacles in Octopus, and polling tentacles are one where we call back to Octopus, and we typically did it through a non-standard port 10943. And now what we've done with polling tentacles is you can now use the port 443, which is, as you know, a standard port for SSL TLS. And so this is a article that Jonathan, who's another PM, wrote about pulling tentacles over standard ports. And we did another video about this as well, which you can check out on our YouTube channel. But basically the idea here is that, traditionally when communicating back to Octopus, through a polling tentacle, you'd have to do through this non-standard port. And that became a difficult discussion, especially when you wanted to implement Octopus, right? You'd have to tell your IT team, hey, can you please open up port 10943? And they're like, why? And so what we've done now is we're now carrying the message across this standard port, which is 443. And then behind the scenes, if you're talking to Octopus Cloud, for example, we have a reverse proxy which will actually forward on the request to a 10943 port because we ensure backwards compatibility as part of that. In addition to that, we've implemented changes here. So you'll now have this URL that you can resolve, which is polling.yourinstancename.octopus.app, which is for Octopus Cloud. So this article by Jonathan goes into detail about what this means, what the change means. There's the video there that we did, and all the impacts there. But it's kind of a minor change, but it's definitely an improvement over what we had before. So definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, we couldn't quite manage to convince the IANA to list this as a standard port, so
well, it is on Wikipedia, right? If you look up 10943, we'll say, yeah, that's for Octopus. So we've got right. that cred. That cred is
Wikipedia is legit, though, right? That should be
that's right.
That should be the source of truth.
That's right. Cool. So yeah, another change there. This is a webinar that we hosted earlier today. Today for Australia, 4 a.m. Ian, who's another PM. Did the valiant job of hosting this webinar. It was entitled Managing Tenants at Scale. And in this webinar, he did a great job of basically talking about multi-tenancy, which is a feature that we support within Octopus. And it's a great feature. If you're deploying an application that you've built to be singly tenanted, meaning you don't have any separation of concerns across, like, say, for example, certain entities in your application model, or let's say you haven't done the diligence of like sharding your database or anything like that relative to customers, or you want to support a SaaS model or anything like that, multi-tenancy is here to help. So multi-tenancy allows you to have that capability. And so what Ian does in this webinar is, we recorded, but what he did was he explained the benefits of multi-tenancy. And then he talks about where we have this view inside of Octopus, which is the tenant overview dashboard, and you can have things like tenant variables and all that sort of stuff. And what we've done is we've dramatically improved the dashboard experience. And this is another video we have on our YouTube channel where we've redesigned the tenant dashboard. It's faster. It's much more easy to navigate. It's got a lot of great features in there, and it's really, really nice and elegant for folks to use. And as you can see by the emojis appearing here on the bottom hands of the screen, this is part of our new webinar platform called Session. People really, really like the new dashboard. And so people are really cheering on what we've done here. And in addition to that, we've also got some new capabilities built into the dashboard, or stuff that's coming soon. So we have a new built-in filter capability here. So you can filter dashboards by creating Boolean constructs here for filtering down tenants, etc. I know this is kind of hard to see, but this is basically what we're supporting going forward as part of this experience. So this is, again, another webinar that we've done, and Ian was a total trooper for hosting this. So thanks to Ian for doing that. And if you want to know more about what's coming up, we have a bunch of new webinars that have been posted. You'll find these up on our site at octopus.com/webinar. Next week, I'll be hosting the Community Town Hall, which is a forum for myself and a bunch of other folks to share with you the news and insights that have occurred over the past month. This will be a chance for you to ask your questions, so it's a live Q&A. In addition, we have James here, who's going to be doing a webinar entitled The Art of Balancing Cloud and On-Prem Deployments, and that's coming up in July. Also next week, we have a joint webinar with our friends over at Redgate, Automate, Collaborate, and Scale, Streamline Database Deployments with Flyway and Octopus Deploy. That will be hosted with Bob Walker, who's a member of our team. And if you're at all curious, you can take a look at the previous webinars that we've done in the past, including ones by Adam. We had a customer webinar with Kindred Systems as well. So they're all listed there. Again, that's at octopus.com/webinar. Sorry, I'm doing all the talking here.
That's all right. It's awesome stuff.
All right.
I can't wait for it.
Yeah, we're trying to put out more information than ever. Another bit of information we put out. This is from Kit and myself, did a video. This is a feature we've added to Octopus called Kubernetes Object Status Checks. So when you do a Kubernetes deployment, typically it would just go into a black hole. This is the way I pitch it at the beginning. but you wouldn't know what's happening. You would just either succeed or fail. You wouldn't be able to get a sense of what actually is passing or what is failing. Because when you do a Kubernetes deployment via YAML description or manifest, you've got a lot of stuff in there. You got replica sets, you've got networks, you've got pods, you've got reefs, you got all kinds of stuff that's going on in Kubernetes. And it's just a nightmare to manage. And so this video that Kit and I did was basically a summary of what's new in Octopus relative to object status checks. So in the demo that you'll see in this video, there's an explanation of how these things work. So when you do a deployment via a built-in step that we have that is integrated with Kubernetes, you'll get a list of updates of things that occur while it's deployment. So this view that you see here. This is showing all the things that are occurring relative to Kubernetes. So you got your various services, you got your endpoints here, whether they pass or fail, etc. In this example, they're using Redis as an example deployment target. So this is a new feature we've added to Octopus and definitely one worth checking out. So that's another video that we've published to our YouTube channel. So awesome stuff. All right, that's all the news and information we have relative to Octopus. Let's move on to some other things tangentially related to Octopus. So this is an update that went out earlier today, GitHub issues and projects. They do this a lot. The GitHub team, especially on the issues and project side, are doing a lot of work, and they're iterating almost as fast as I would say as the VS Code or TypeScript teams at Microsoft. So they've added a bunch of changes here. So copy and paste improvements, updated the title tab in the browser, not so super important. Support filtering on field schema in this property here. So returning all of the options for a single select field can be one of our API's responses hard for users to parse. So utilizing GraphQL, I can structure now a filtering field inside of the request schema. So I don't know if you have any experience with GraphQL, but this is what a query looks like. You send this to a GraphQL endpoint. GraphQL is really nice because it allows you to basically structure your own queries. You can say, listen, query this table called users, but give me the email, the last name, and their age. I don't know. I'm just making stuff up. But that's how you construct a query. And it defines a query language like this. And so now in the projects endpoint, you can specify a filter, which allows you to basically specify these across projects, which is nice. It gives you a better sort of list of returned projects. Task list redesign. So I don't know if you use task lists in GitHub.
No, I don't. No, they're in
there. These are great for obviously issues and stuff. So if you're triaging an issue, you put it in a task. So this is a great little addition. So they've done a redesign there. They've added some accessibility improvements, which is great. Bulk add task list issues to projects. So you can bulk add them to a project if you wanted. So let me see if I can actually. I can't zoom in on that one, but if I zoom in here, that's a little fuzzy, but that's all right. So now you can do a bulk add as part of this. So you can say which ones you want to apply these to, which is great. And then add to project from project side panel. So here you can say add a draft to the project, which is through that side panel now, which is great. These are great little additions I love seeing in GitHub. It helps with my workflow, certainly. I do use the GitHub UI quite a bit. I try to stick to the CLI as much as I can or other tools. But if and when I need to use the GitHub UI, I love the fact that these features are there. So definitely something worth checking out.
Yeah, that's something I use a lot. It looks cool though.
Yeah, for sure. So lots of stuff there. And as I said before, GitHub is iterating crazy fast on this stuff. So this is available up on their blog, which is at github.blog. And yes, .blog is a TLD. And they always do an update every 2 weeks or so, it seems, around issues and projects, which is great to see. Another update that they recently posted, GitHub hosted larger runners for actions are now generally available. So if you need a big instance, 64 vCPUs and a massive 224 gigabytes of RAM, you can now do that with these new larger hosted GitHub runners. Obviously, you'll have to pay a little bit more for this. There's a lot of different options here for GitHub Actions. Runners have always been kind of on the smaller side, and you've seen some startups come about to help provide faster, larger options. But this is something that they've turned on, and obviously they have little strings that you can add to your GitHub Actions when denoting runners. So that's something that you can do. These are hosted GitHub runners. They're not hosted by your infrastructure. So if you want to do self-hosted runners, obviously you have to stand up that infrastructure yourself. But this is something you can take a look at if you're so interested.
Awesome. Big machine.
And sort of somewhat related, GitLab. GitLab 16.1 is out. So if you're utilizing GitLab as opposed to GitHub, that's fine. GitLab is added a bunch of new navigation to this. So in their blog post here, they talk about how they're providing a new navigation experience, and they provide an analogy of building like a dream home where you have to do it basically with a vision in mind. And so they're iterating on top of this navigation experience going forward, and they have a blog post and video that shows a little bit about that. So similar to what GitHub is doing around things like issues and projects, etc., GitLab is also iterating on its navigation and other capabilities, including being able to visualize Kubernetes resources. So similar to what we do in object status checks in Octopus, it seems like everyone's jumping on the Kubernetes bandwagon. So being able to visualize those resources like clusters that are running, etc., is something that you can do now in GitLab. You can authenticate with service accounts as well. This is obviously important if you're wanting to iterate with other systems. And then finally, dedicated, which is a fully managed single tenant SaaS deployment solution for DevSecOps, something that you can do as well as part of this. So 16.1, lots of stuff that's in there. Definitely worth checking out. So that's up on their blog at gitlab.com. Moving right along, Go 121 release candidate. Have you had a chance to play with Go yet?
Not really. Okay. I don't think I'm going to.
Come on. All the cool kids are using it.
I've looked enough. Tell me when they get the error handling sorted. Once they get the error handling sorted, I'll come play out with it.
Yeah, shots fired. All right, fine. Yeah, that's a fair charge. So 121 RC is now available, and getting release candidates for Go is pretty easy. The tooling allows it to be simply integrated quite well. So bunch of things in here. So they're adding a lot of stuff around standard libraries. So this is where you'll find a lot of the work being done around Go. So they have a new log package for structured logging. Slices is like a constant in Go. Use slices all the time, as well as maps. So adding common operations for slices, sorting functions, etc. And then compare package for utilities, comparing ordered values. Some language changes here. So new built-in functions for min, max, and clear. I know that these sound, Jim, I know you're a .NET developer, and to a certain extent, I've been doing .NET for a long time myself. I know to us, it's like, come on, this is, what is this, 1993? Sort of thing. But yeah, some of these things are badly needed, and so obviously they've been added as part of this going forward. And so lots of stuff there, which is great. And that's something you can check out if you're so inclined. Yeah, another product feature that... Go ahead, sorry.
Doesn't matter.
Okay, no worries.
This is going to be more snark. We don't need it.
What are we talking about here? Snark? These two characters? Never. So Visual Studio, I don't know if you know this, but Visual Studio pull requests has always been a difficult prospect inside of VS proper. So VS, not VS Code, VS has always been a challenge. You've had to rely, obviously, on the web to do this. And so what they've done is they've been working on this carefully, methodically, over time, thinking about what does a pull request experience look like in the context of VS. Because you have to remember, VS is a fully integrated development experience. It's an IDE experience that people don't want to leave their browser. And so they thought long and hard about this. And so now they have this integration, which is available for creating pull requests directly inside of VS. Now, I know you'll also think, oh, come on, like create a pull request? Are you serious? But this is something that I think over time, they've taken a lot of care and finally implemented this as part of a solution that integrates directly within VS. So now you can integrate directly within GitHub. You can create new pull requests. You can view existing ones, etc. You can select the branch you wish to merge into, for example, so you can see the changes here. You can see the commit tree along with the branches, etc. You can establish the title and description and create PRs that way. In addition to that, they also list work items here. So these are the ones that will obviously sync with your backend repo. So this is something that is now integrated as part of the VS experience. And I think I applaud, obviously, the VS team for getting their act together and getting a nice experience going with VS, which is important.
I have a very important question.
Okay, go ahead.
Important question.
Yes.
A key element of any of my pull requests is always an animated GIF. Can I put an animated GIF into this?
I don't know. I don't think so. That's my guess. That's my guess. But
I'll go find their product board. I'll go find their roadmap.
That's right. Yep. Yeah, gifts are important. We have to have those. So, anyways, you can check out this blog post if you're at all curious. There's a video that accompanies this as well. So, Wolverine, Jeremy D. Miller, who's pretty well known in the .NET community, has come out with a new mediator framework called Wolverine. Wolverine has been in development for a while now. We've talked about this a few times, and version 1.0 out has just been shipped. So credit to Jeremy and friends for getting this out. And so if you're all curious as what Wolverine is, it's a set of libraries that can be used in .NET applications as an in-memory mediator, as an in-memory command bus, and as a async messaging backbone. So this somewhat sounds familiar for us, eh? There, Jim. We've got a little bit of this going inside of Octopus, I think, don't we? Not Wolverine, but we've got a little bit of a mediator pattern and command bus and asynchronous messaging, right? So
totally.
So yes. So this is something that you can see Jeremy stated, I'm hoping that it grows to become the single best platforms for CQRS with event sourcing for any development platform. So credit to Jeremy. Congratulations for getting that out. I have not played with this yet, but I've been tracking it, and I've been interested in kind of what's been happening there. So you can see this has been under development for a while, and he's taken basically all the learnings that he had when building out other solutions as well for this as well. So
yeah, I'm a big fan of Martin, so I'm keen to see what this is like for sure.
All right, awesome.
Oh, he's even referencing Fubu MVC in there.
I know. He said he learned a lot from that. So yeah, old school, breaking out the old neurons there. Stack Overflow has released their updated their developer survey. This is for 2023. This is something they've been doing for a number of years now, and this is the 6th or 7th instance of this. They survey over 90,000 developers and ask them a series of questions regarding, what language are you building? What's your favorite technology? How much are you making? Where are you located? Et cetera, et cetera. So it's basically a state of the union relative to folks who opt into this survey, who are members of the Stack Overflow community. And this is a blog post that kind of highlights some of the things that have been recognized there. Obviously, people use this as a battleground for stating whether their language is better than someone else's language. So take it with a grain of salt, obviously. And the survey itself is quite digestible. So there's an HTML version of it. Basically, you don't have to download a PDF. You don't have to register. You just go to the Stack survey link directly. And I thought it would be interesting just to take a look at some of the things that are in here. So these are some of the more popular tools that are used by developers. So these are classified under other tools. So this is outside the confines of like IDEs and things like that. So if you take a look at tools, frameworks, etc., they all stack up, and they all fall under the same sort of categories. But I thought it'd be interesting to take a look at other tools. So Docker, number one, very interesting. NPM, so shout out to Node and packages. Pip for your Python developers. Homebrew, huge fan. Although they've got to sort out some things with Homebrew. Homebrew 3 actually, which shipped this year, actually sorted out a bunch of things that were wrong with Homebrew in my view. Kubernetes, 19%, despite all the traction it gets in the news. Maven still going strong. NuGet. This is sort of like a horse race. Visual Studio Solution, I don't know what that means. I guess a SLNs file. CMake, which I've heard good things about. Terraform, I thought this number would be higher.
Yeah, I was wondering about that myself. Yeah.
I know. I don't get it, but there you go. So anyways,
is this what people voted on, or is this like things they posted, like posts asking for help on?
No. These are things that people have voted as the top used tool. So when they are surveyed, people were saying this is what I use. Now, obviously, these numbers may differ depending on who you're talking to. So probe devs, learning to code, other coders. I don't know what other coders are, but there you go. I thought that would be.
We don't talk about the other coders.
That's right. Let's not talk about them. Admired and desired. So these ones interesting. So these are blue is desired, and then red is admired. So you can see the difference here. So obviously, longer bars to the right means folks who are wanting to, utilize. So they're admiring Rust in a big way. Rust gets a lot of love. So does Elixir. So does Zig. I've heard many, many good things about Zig. So yeah, just things worth considering when looking at languages. Very long tails here.
Zig's a new one for me. Is that like?
Yeah.
It's not the Zigbee protocol stuff. The
It looks a little bit like TypeScript, to be honest. So when I look at it, I'm like, okay,
Right.
so general purpose language. It's designed for robustness, being optimal in terms of work, and then reusable. So there's some things to it. I haven't actually played with this yet, but I've heard a lot about it. I've been to this website a ton of times and read through the literature, but this is a code example here. So
Yeah.
it looks and smells a little bit like TypeScript, but there you go. That's at ziglang.org if you're at all curious.
Cool. All right.
And then work with versus want to work with. So this is always interesting. I don't think there's a lot of people who want to work with markup and CSS, but they have to, I guess, by necessity. Top paying technologies. Zig is number one, the one developer, the outlier. I'm kidding. But yeah, Zig, Erlang, F#, Ruby, etc., etc. So some interesting stuff there. AI got a separate mention, which I thought was interesting. So this is a news section for 2023, and you can see that almost half of folks are using AI, or 70% are using it or plan to use AI tools as part of their development process, which I thought was very cool. AI tool sentiment, very favorable to favorable. So well over half, 77% of response are favorable or very favorable. Benefit, increased productivity, speed up learning, greater efficiency, etc., etc. Accuracy, this one is, trust but verify, I think, is the old adage, right? So somewhat trust, neither trust nor distrust. So yeah. And then you can go through all these. So the developer profile, what it looks like, the community itself, what parts of the sites that they use, the breakdown of professional developers, questions for them, methodology of how it went through. So that's all available at the Stack Overflow developer survey website, which you can check out yourself if you're so inclined. I always like these surveys. They're great.
Yeah.
And then finally, wrapping things up, Terraform 1.5. This is available up on the the HashiCorp blog at hashicorp.com. I use Terraform quite a bit, and I was really keen to see this come out. So Terraform 1.5 is now available. And the big thing for me was there is a config-driven workflow for imports. So when you import, or traditionally when you imported with Terraform, you would say, point at a resource ID, and then it would suck it down. But there was no way of driving that through configuration. So now there's a new import resource that you can declare inside your Terraform files, your HCL. And so it will now provide that mechanism. So that's config-driven import, which is fantastic and really helps. So this is how it looks. I know this is kind of hard to see, but you declare an import statement, you give it an ID, and then you can declare where it's going to go to. So you don't have to do this anymore on the CLI or on the command line anymore, which is where you had to do it. You had to do it only on the command line. Now you can do it inside of your HCL. And then this other one, which is really cool, are checks. So enhanced validation with checks. And so what checks give you to do is basically declare a block that state what certain conditions need to arise for what certain resources. So here I have a check that's defined, and I need a return status code. This is for an HP request to be 200. And if not, I will assert an error message that says an unhealthy status code, for example, was returned. I think that these should be called assertions as opposed to, they kind of remind me of dev asserts, but they don't block. They just return an error. But that's another feature now that's available as part of Terraform 1.5. So that's nice.
Yeah, right. Looking dangerously close to a general purpose programming language at some point.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think you'll find once you skate towards the edge of Terraform with HCL, you start to realize, no, it's not a general purpose language.
Well, I know it's not, but yeah.
So anyways, that wraps up this latest edition of Deploy on Friday. Thanks for joining. Jim, any parting words before we wrap up here?
Nothing from me. That was some great stuff.
Right. All right. Well, again, just to remind folks, if you're all curious, you go check us out at octopus.com. Our webinars, which I mentioned earlier, at octopus.com/webinars. Our blog is at /blogs. And you can check out our roadmap, as I said earlier on, at roadmap.octopus.com. We're here every week. We try to be, at least. If Jim's not traveling or I'm not traveling, we're here every Friday. So feel free to check us out, and hope to see you soon on the next edition of Deploy on Friday. Have a great week, everyone. See you later.